I've been driving for a rideshare app for about 2 years now. I started doing it full-time after I got laid off from my warehouse job during the pandemic. It gave me freedom and paid the bills, even if the hours were long and the people unpredictable. This happened to me last fall, early November, right after daylight saving time ended, when it starts getting dark stupid early. I was working one of my usual night shifts, picking up extra hours before the holidays. That night I was driving through the rural outskirts of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, trying to hit my bonus before midnight. Everything felt normal, until it didn't. Around 10:30 p.m., I got a ping for a pickup about 25 minutes away, further out into the countryside. The username was just Tina S., and the pin dropped near a small road that branched off from Route 147. I remember checking the map twice. It looked like a dead-end farm road, but sometimes people request pickups from rural houses or small barns converted into event spaces. I didn't think too much of it. I accepted the ride, hit the turn signal, and started making my way down the side road. There were no lights, no houses in sight, just tree silhouettes lining both sides. My high beams cut through the dark like a flashlight in a tunnel. About 5 minutes down the road, my GPS chirped for me to go another half mile and then make a U-turn. That should have been my first red flag. Why would someone request a ride from the middle of nowhere just to head back the same direction? I slowed down, the gravel crunching under my tires. And that's when I felt it. A sudden, violent thud, followed by the sickening flapping of rubber. Then another, both front tires. Blown. I slammed on the brakes. The car groaned and skidded slightly before coming to a stop. My dashboard lit up with alerts. I sat there in stunned silence, staring at the black screen of my phone, then glanced at my rearview mirror. And that's when I saw the first shape step out from the trees behind me. At first I thought it was a deer. But no, the movement was too deliberate. A person, tall, wearing what looked like a hooded jacket or poncho, slowly walked out of the tree line and stopped in the middle of the road behind me. Then another one stepped out. Then a third. They weren't saying anything, just standing there spaced out evenly, all facing me. My heart dropped into my stomach. I reached for my phone to call 911, but there was no service. Just a tiny SOS only in the corner of the screen. I locked the doors immediately and flicked on the interior light. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. The figures didn't move. They just stood there, like they were waiting for something. I sat frozen behind the wheel, pulse pounding in my ears, every instinct in my body screaming that this wasn't some coincidence. My tires didn't just blow. They were sabotaged. I scanned the darkness ahead and saw something glint in my headlights about 20 feet down the road. Metal, jagged, uniform. I squinted harder and could just barely make out a strip of spikes, like something you'd see at a police checkpoint, but rusty and makeshift. Someone had placed that there. This was a setup, a trap. I looked back at the figures. One of them started walking toward my car. I panicked. I threw the car in reverse, but the tires were shredded. I barely rolled a foot before the grinding and wobbling forced me to stop. My mind was racing. I considered flooring it and trying to drive off the road entirely, but I couldn't see where the ditch started. One wrong move and I'd flip. The approaching figure was getting closer, now illuminated in my taillights. I could see his face partially, pale, dirty, with a scruffy beard and dead eyes. He raised a hand, not in a wave, but like a silent command. Come out. That's when I realized all three of them had something in their other hand. I couldn't make it out fully, but it looked like a crowbar, or maybe a tire iron. I cracked my window an inch and shouted, "I've already called the cops." It was a lie, but I hoped it'd scare them off. No response. The guy didn't flinch. He kept walking until he was about 5 feet from the trunk. Then he stopped, tilted his head slowly, and just stared at me. The other two moved to the sides, disappearing from my view. That scared me more than seeing them, not knowing where they were, what they were doing. My car felt like a coffin. I fumbled with the gear shift again, uselessly, trying not to hyperventilate. My mouth was dry. My vision was tunneling. That's when I heard the soft tap on the passenger window. I jerked around so fast my neck cracked. There was a fourth person now. I hadn't seen where they came from. They were crouched, peering in through the side window. Face half covered with a scarf, but I could make out bright eyes, wide and locked on mine. Then came a voice, quiet, firm, muffled through the glass. "Get out." That was it. Just those two words. My brain refused to process it. I shook my head, said, "No," loud enough to hear myself over the thudding in my chest. The figure didn't react, just kept crouching, like they had all night. Like this was routine. That's what chilled me the most, how calm they all seemed, like they'd done this before. At that point, I knew I couldn't wait this out. My car wasn't going anywhere. My phone had no signal. And whoever these people were, they weren't in a rush, which meant they were in control. I needed to shift the balance somehow. I glanced around the car, desperate. In the cup holder, a half-empty water bottle and a melted protein bar. Glove compartment, napkins, old receipts, and a small can of pepper spray I'd completely forgotten I had. It was from an ex-girlfriend who insisted I carry it when I started driving nights. I grabbed it, hands trembling, and quietly slipped it into my hoodie pocket. I turned off the lights inside the car, hoping the darkness would help me move unseen. The person at the window had backed off a little, but I could still see them, now pacing slowly in a circle. I took one long breath, unlocked the driver door, and flung it open hard, aiming to surprise whoever might be nearby. I jumped out and immediately sprinted toward the woods on the left. I heard shouting behind me, fast footsteps, branches cracking, but I didn't stop. I just ran, dodging trees and slipping on damp leaves, my lungs on fire. I didn't look back once. I must have run for at least 10 minutes straight, purely on adrenaline. Eventually I saw a light, not from the road but a dim porch bulb. A small farmhouse maybe half a mile off that cursed road. I ran to the front door and pounded like a maniac, yelling for help. An older man opened the door holding a shotgun, and I damn near collapsed on his porch trying to explain through gasps. He let me in, locked the door, and called the police right away. I sat on his couch shaking uncontrollably, trying to piece together what had just happened. When the cops arrived nearly 40 minutes later, we went back to my car. The spike strip was gone. The people were gone. Just my beat-up sedan sitting there like nothing had happened. They never found anyone. No prints, no cameras, no reports of similar incidents in the area. The cops said it was probably some rural junkies trying to rob me, but they couldn't explain the coordination or the fact that no one ever came forward from that account I was supposed to pick up. Tina S. just vanished. I quit rideshare 2 days later. Haven't driven a single stranger since. I still dream about that night sometimes, especially the eyes of the person who whispered, "Get out." Not angry, not nervous, just cold, focused, like I was a task, a step in a plan. Something tells me I wasn't the first, and I'm terrified I won't be the last. I was 22 when this happened. I was in my junior year of college, studying environmental science, and decided to take a solo road trip from Tucson, Arizona to Portland, Oregon for spring break. I didn't have much of a plan, just me, my old Honda Civic, a bag of clothes, and the hope that the drive would help me clear my head after a messy breakup and a string of bad weeks. I left Arizona early that morning, passing through dusty highways and empty landscapes for hours, until I hit a stretch of back road near the Oregon border that felt like it hadn't been driven on in years. It was late afternoon when the rain started. Not just a drizzle, the kind of cold, pounding rain that makes the sky feel too close and every sound inside the car unnervingly sharp. I remember the exact moment I saw her. There was this old gas station on the side of the road, looked long abandoned, with one flickering light still hanging above the awning. And under that weak yellow bulb stood a woman, soaking wet, wearing a long dark green coat that looked too heavy for her frame. She held her thumb out hesitantly, like she didn't even expect anyone to stop. I hesitated. I don't usually pick up strangers. I've seen enough horror movies to know better, but something about her made me slow down. Maybe it was the way she kept glancing over her shoulder like someone was following her. Or maybe it was the guilt, thinking I'd hate to be stuck out here if the roles were reversed. She got in fast, barely saying thank you, her wet hair plastered to her cheeks. "Just up the road," she mumbled, not looking at me. I asked her name. She said, "Claire," and then didn't speak again for almost 10 minutes. I tried to fill the silence with light chatter, the usual stuff. Where she was headed, if she was local, what brought her out in this storm. She barely answered. Instead, she started asking me questions, weird ones. "Are you close with your parents? Do you live alone? Have you ever had your heart broken so bad it made you want to disappear?" I laughed awkwardly, brushing it off, but my stomach started to tighten. Something about the way she said it. It wasn't just curiosity. It was like she needed to know, like she was measuring me for something. That's when I noticed her hands. They were trembling slightly as she rubbed them together for warmth. Her sleeves had slid up just enough for me to see thin, red cuts across both wrists. Not old scars, fresh, raw. And on the inside of her coat, near the hem, there was a faint rust-colored stain. My throat went dry. I kept driving, pretending I hadn't seen it, but my mind was racing. Had she just hurt herself? Was she running from someone? Or worse, had she hurt someone else? Every mile stretched longer than the last, and I started to realize I had no clue who this woman really was, or what she was capable of. I started glancing at the GPS on my phone more often, looking for any sign of civilization. A diner, a gas station, anything. But the road just kept winding through thick pine forest, endless and dark, the kind of road that swallows sound and makes you feel like you're not moving at all. Claire began to fidget more. She kept twisting in her seat, peering out the back window like she expected someone to be tailing us. Then, out of nowhere, she snapped, "You didn't see anyone back there, did you?" Her voice was sharp now, eyes wide and glassy. I told her no, of course not, and tried to stay calm, but my fingers were gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. She got quiet again, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of silence. It was like the air got heavier inside the car. Then she leaned toward me, closer than I was comfortable with, and asked, "Do you ever feel like someone's following you? Not because they want to catch you, but because they're afraid of what you know?" I didn't even know how to respond. My heart was pounding, and I could feel this cold sweat creeping down my spine. Her breath smelled faintly metallic, and I remember that detail so vividly because it made something in my brain click, like she was bleeding somewhere, and maybe not just from her wrists. I knew I had to get her out of the car, but we were still in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't want to provoke her. I tried to fake a reason, told her I needed gas soon and would have to stop at the next station. She stared at me for a long second, like she was trying to figure out if I was lying. Then she nodded slowly and muttered, "Gas is good, if we make it." That last part chilled me more than anything else she'd said. It wasn't a threat exactly. It was worse, like she was convinced something terrible was already coming, and I was just too naive to see it. About 15 minutes later, I spotted a sign for a rest stop. One of those beat-up old ones with a vending machine shack and a single flickering light in the parking lot. I told her I needed to use the bathroom and pulled in. She didn't argue, but the second I stepped out of the car, I grabbed my keys and my phone and speed-walked straight into the tiny building. There was no one else around. I locked myself in the stall, heart hammering, trying to figure out what to do next. I opened my weather app just to have an excuse to stare at my phone. And that's when I saw it. No service, not even one bar. I stayed in that bathroom for what felt like 10 solid minutes, just standing there, listening. No footsteps, no door creaks. Just the rain ticking against the roof and my own breathing echoing off the walls. When I finally cracked the stall door open and peeked out, the building was still empty. I crept back outside, expecting to see her waiting in the car. But the passenger door was wide open, and she was gone. Not walking down the road, not hiding in the trees. Just gone. I called out her name, softly at first, then louder, even though I was terrified of actually getting a response. Nothing. I jumped into the car, locked the doors, and sat there for a few seconds trying to process what had just happened. Her coat was still on the seat, not folded or placed, just crumpled there like she'd vanished out of it. There were streaks of dried blood on the inside lining, and something about that broke me. I started shaking, full body, like my nervous system couldn't decide whether to fight, run, or shut down entirely. After a minute, I threw the coat out the window, started the car, and peeled out of that lot like my life depended on it. Because at that point, I really wasn't sure it didn't. I didn't stop driving until I reached a small town just outside of Klamath Falls. I found the local sheriff's station, and despite how insane it all sounded, I told them everything. The hitchhiker, the cuts, the blood, the vanishing. The deputy who took my statement didn't look surprised. He just nodded a lot and asked if I remembered exactly where I picked her up. I gave the closest landmark I could, and he sighed and said, "You're not the first one." Apparently, other travelers had reported similar run-ins over the years. Always a woman near that same old gas station, always disappearing without a trace. Some said she was a ghost. Others thought it was just a local mental health patient who came and went. But the blood? No one had ever seen that before. I still don't know what she was. A woman in danger, someone dangerous, or something not quite human. I think about Claire every time I drive long distances alone. I still see her sometimes in my mind. Soaked in rain, standing under that flickering light, asking me if I ever felt followed. I didn't back then. But now? Yeah. Sometimes I look in my rearview mirror at night and wonder if she ever really left. I'm Jake, 32 years old, and this happened about 8 months ago, when I was just starting out as an over-the-road trucker. At the time, I'd only been on the job for maybe 2 weeks. I was running a solo night haul from Birmingham, Alabama to Savannah, Georgia. I remember being overly confident, still running on that beginner's adrenaline, but also a little on edge every time I got off the highway. It was one of those long nights where the road gets blurry and every billboard looks the same. Around 9:45 p.m., I pulled off for a quick dinner at this old-school diner in some tiny Georgia town. I was starving and just needed something greasy to keep me awake for the rest of the drive. The place had that worn-out charm, flickering neon lights, a half-lit open sign hanging crooked, and a parking lot made of cracked concrete. Inside, it was all booths and wood paneling that looked like it hadn't been updated since the 70s. There were maybe 4 people total, a waitress who looked half asleep, a couple in the corner arguing quietly, and this older man sitting alone at the counter sipping black coffee. He was probably mid-70s, thin, white hair, big hands, and these pale, almost grayish-blue eyes that felt empty. I sat a couple stools down from him and ordered a bacon cheeseburger and fries, trying not to overthink how dead the place felt. After a few minutes, the old guy struck up a conversation. He asked where I was headed, what I was hauling, the usual truck stop small talk. I told him I was new on the job, hauling machine parts to a repair facility in Savannah. and was just trying to make up for a lost hour due to construction. That's when he perked up and said something like, "You don't have to go the way your GPS tells you. There's a quicker way, no traffic at all. Locals Road. I used to drive it all the time." He even scribbled the route on a napkin for me. Just a series of road names and turns, no highway numbers. Something about it made my stomach twist, but I didn't want to be rude. And honestly, I was so eager to get ahead of schedule that I told myself I was just being paranoid. I paid the check, thanked the guy, and got back in my rig. I double-checked the napkin directions under the dome light and plugged the first road into my GPS. But of course, it didn't recognize it. Still, I figured I'd give it 10 minutes. Worst case, I'd turn around. The first few turns seemed fine. 2-lane roads, a few farmhouses in the distance, some rusted-out sheds. But then the road started narrowing, and the pavement got worse, full of potholes, faded lines, overgrown brush crawling out from the ditches. It was pitch black except for my headlights and the occasional glint of an old mailbox. I was starting to regret the whole thing when I noticed a pair of headlights behind me, way too close, hugging my trailer like they were drafting me. At first I thought maybe it was just another local headed home on the same back road. I slowed down a bit to let them pass, but they didn't. They kept that same tight distance, never falling back, never attempting to overtake. I tapped my brakes, not slamming them, just enough to signal that I wasn't cool with how close they were. Still nothing. That's when I started to feel it. That slow crawl of adrenaline in my chest, the kind that makes your hands grip the wheel a little too hard. I rolled down the window slightly, hoping the air would snap me out of my nerves, but it only made the silence outside feel even heavier. No crickets, no wind. Just the low hum of my engine and tires crunching loose gravel where the road had started to break apart. The car behind me was an older model, maybe a late 90s sedan, white or beige, hard to tell in my mirrors. No front plate, no stickers, nothing identifying. Just a generic-looking car tailing me deep into nowhere. I took a random left turn off the napkin directions, thinking maybe I could throw them off if they weren't actually following me. But they turned too. Immediate. No hesitation. My gut dropped. I didn't know where I was anymore. The GPS had stopped giving any signal, and I hadn't seen a road sign or mailbox in what felt like 20 minutes. Trees were creeping closer to the road, branches overhead now forming this twisted canopy that blocked out any moonlight. I picked up my CB radio and called out a few times. Basic stuff. "Breaker, breaker, anyone got ears on this channel?" Nothing. Dead air. I even tried my phone, but it had gone to no service about 10 miles back. That's when I started really talking to myself, out loud, trying to keep calm. "It's fine, Jake. You'll turn around, get back to the diner road, retrace your steps. Just a lost local. No big deal." But I didn't believe it. And deep down, I knew I'd gone too far to just turn around easily. The road was too narrow, no shoulder to swing the rig. It would have taken a damn miracle to make a U-turn without getting stuck. Eventually, I came to this fork in the road. The kind without a sign. Just dirt paths splitting off into two directions like some messed-up cartoon. And I swear to God the car behind me just stopped. Not close, not hidden. Just parked dead center of the fork, headlights still on, engine idling. It was like they were waiting to see which way I'd go. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my neck. I didn't want to move, didn't want to signal or commit. So I just sat there, staring in my mirrors, trying to see if anyone would get out of the car. But nobody did. No door opened, no movement, just that same low hum of their engine, pulsing through the trees. After what felt like forever, I picked a direction, the left path, mainly because it looked slightly wider and less overgrown. The moment I started moving, the car backed up and slowly followed. They weren't trying to be subtle anymore. It was deliberate. At that point, I stopped trying to rationalize anything. This wasn't someone who lived out here. This was someone who wanted me out here. I kept driving, feeling completely boxed in by thick woods and fences made of rusted barbed wire that looked like they hadn't been touched in years. Every mile felt longer than the last. I passed what looked like an abandoned barn. The roof had collapsed, and a swing set sat half buried in weeds. It looked like no kids had played there in decades. And yet, something about that place felt too staged, like it had been left there just for someone like me to notice. Then I noticed my fuel gauge. I had just under a quarter tank left. Nothing critical, but suddenly it felt urgent. I hadn't seen a single gas station or driveway since I left the main road. My stomach turned at the idea of running out of fuel out here. I looked in the mirrors again and saw that the car had fallen back slightly, maybe 20 yards now. Still keeping pace, but less aggressive. That's when I thought maybe they were trying to herd me, like push me towards something. And right then I saw it. A narrow dirt road off to the right, almost hidden by brush. No signs, no lights, but I swear I caught a faint glow way down it, like a lantern or a porch light. My instincts were torn. One side screamed, "Get the hell out." The other whispered, "Light means people. Help." I made a split-second decision and turned right onto that dirt road. It was bumpy as hell, and I felt every jolt through the steering wheel. The trees closed in tighter here, scraping the sides of my trailer like fingernails. But I kept going, eyes locked on that faint light ahead. After maybe 2 minutes, I reached a clearing. There was a small run-down house, one story, wood siding peeling off in chunks, one window boarded up, and a single porch light flickering like it hadn't been changed in years. Parked in front of the house, facing the opposite direction, was another car. Different from the one following me. This one was a pickup, maybe 80s, rusted out, but still looked recently used. And that's when the hair on my arms stood up. Because the front door was wide open, like someone was expecting me. I didn't even shut off the engine. I just sat there, staring, trying to figure out what the hell to do. Then I saw movement, a silhouette inside, pacing slowly past the doorway. No light inside the house, just the flicker from the porch, casting enough glow to show a figure. Not walking toward me, just pacing. Almost like they were waiting for something. I looked back and realized the car that had been following me was gone. Just gone. No headlights. No engine hum. I hadn't heard it leave, hadn't seen it back out. I threw the truck into reverse so fast I nearly stalled out, trying to angle my way back onto the main road without jackknifing the trailer. It took everything in me to back out of that narrow dirt path without getting stuck. But I managed it, barely. I got back onto the main road and just floored it, ignoring every bump, every pothole, not even caring if I blew a tire. My hands were slick with sweat, and my mouth was completely dry. I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting to see that damn car reappear from the trees, or worse, something step out onto the road. But there was nothing, just endless blacktop and twisted shadows. After about 15 minutes of driving like a maniac, I finally hit a paved road with a faded county sign. It felt like a lifeline. I didn't even care where it led, I just followed it. Eventually, I reached a gas station that looked like it had been plucked straight from a different decade. 2 pumps, buzzing lights, and a guy behind the glass who looked about as suspicious of me as I was of everyone by then. I stumbled inside, tried to act normal, bought a Gatorade I didn't even drink. I asked the guy if he knew the town with the diner, told him I'd taken a back road trying to get to Savannah. He gave me a weird look and said, "Ain't no diner out here, man. Closest thing like that is 20 miles west, but it's been closed since the pandemic." I remember my skin going cold when he said that. I still had the damn napkin with the route written on it, but I didn't even want to look at it anymore. I ended up sleeping in the truck that night, parked right under the brightest street lamp I could find. I locked everything, turned off the CB, and just sat there listening for any sound I couldn't explain. I didn't get much rest, but I made it to Savannah the next morning, hours late. My dispatcher was pissed, but I didn't care. I never told him what happened. I didn't tell anyone for a long time. And yeah, I thought maybe I imagined parts of it. Maybe stress or exhaustion twisted things in my head. But then, about a week later, I checked my dashcam footage. The front-facing cam had glitched out for most of the night, just static. But the rear cam caught that car. You could clearly see it following me, tailing me for miles, and then vanishing without a trace. I still drive, but I don't take shortcuts anymore. And I never ever stop at diners that look too quiet, too forgotten. Whatever that was, whoever those people were, they weren't just trying to mess with a rookie trucker. It felt like a setup, like they'd done it before. And the worst part? Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone into that house. If I'd stepped out, said something, knocked. But I didn't. I don't know what I escaped from that night, and I think that's what haunts me the most. If you've made it this far, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this. Also, leave a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. I want to know who stayed with me until the end. See you next time.